Okay, talking about the human rights and dignity and abuse of people. I'd like to talk a little bit more in depth about emotional abuse in the workplace. So it goes on out there. I don't know if you've experienced. I have experienced it from minor degrees to severe degrees. It's not fun. But if we're going to have human rights, we got to do something about it. These people are jerks, and we have to kind of look into why they're jerks and how is this being allowed to go on. So some of the examples of emotional abuse in the workplace could include, well, bullying, number one, which would include intimidation, undermining, impossible deadlines, giving people the wrong information, which results in an impossible task and unreasonable duties. They're just trying to watch you fail. They want you to fail, and that makes them look better. And they might also be setting you up so they can get rid of you. Another thing is they're setting you up so your self-esteem goes down and you're embarrassed, so you won't talk back and you know your place. Other things, I think we've talked about belittling, talking down to people, borderline harassment. It could get so bad that there's public shaming, like in the meetings. Everybody else gets recognition for something, and then you kind of get that little look, or somebody gets that little look, and that's a subtle public shaming. Could be putting down, overworking people just because you can. I was reading an article recently where the managers that have this, there's various reasons, and we're going to go into probably the main one, but they abuse the people for fun. Can you imagine? For fun. So impossible task, overworked. As we mentioned with dignity in a previous video, ignoring the person or alienating them. Everybody else goes to the meeting but that person. Can you imagine how that makes them feel? Setting people up for failure, that's kind of a repeat. Maybe even rumors start where the manager would say something about the employee to another employee, and then the rumor gets around to that employee, so they know that the manager or the superior is talking bad about them, and that's just not a good thing. Might even give them a nasty nickname in the process as well. So these are just some of the examples of bullying and emotional abuse in the workplace, and it goes on. Now, how does this result? What are the effects? The employee feels insecure, obviously. Isn't that the whole point? To make somebody feel bad about themselves? Can you believe, well, I'm sure you've experienced it to some degree, but this is what went on in 4th grade, 5th grade, or this system, standard 4 and 5 and 6, right? The embarrassment. You're an adult, you're going to work, you're trying to do the right thing, and we're getting undermined and embarrassed. And that just results in a worthless feeling. I have been through a severe case of this, and let me tell you, you feel worthless, it's embarrassing, you're devalued, you're totally unappreciated. There's no recognition. You're not going to get that because you got to be kept in your place. Hopelessness. You go into survival mode, and what am I going to do if this goes further? And of course you're angry and furious, and then you have sleep problems. You can't sleep. Feel oppressed. Yeah, fear. Man, I'm telling you, that fear will get you, and it becomes almost learned helplessness. There's nothing I can do to resolve this problem. and that fear sends you into a state of paralysis, where you can't help yourself because you're in such a state of fear. You're just so scared you can't move. My cat just the other day had cornered a squirrel in our outhouse, and I go into the outhouse and there's a squirrel who's just afraid to death, and I'm going, oh, go on buddy, but he's got the cat and me, and he's in between, and he's just sitting there like this. Well, that's what happens when you're under emotional abuse and you're in the workplace. Low self-esteem, how much lower can it get? It's kind of like you have it, but you don't have it. Because people put so much weight. It depends on your culture and your country and all of that, but there is an identity that you have with your work. And if you're getting screwed up at work, now your self-worth and your self-esteem is getting beaten constantly. You don't feel good. Intimidated, depressed. That's a big one right there. Can you imagine a management or a company allowing their people to become emotionally distraught and depressed? It's just a job. Look how miserable the people have become. They don't feel like they belong. Psychological withdrawal, they just can't leave. They don't belong, but they can't leave. And of course, you become paranoid and suspicious of everything because we have these little rumors going around and all of this. So that's how if you've never experienced it, that's dead on right there. The cost. I've got to add organizational learning here. Okay, so we have absenteeism. People don't want to come to work. In fact, they're so stressed out about going to work. They might even break into the shakes going into work. Can you imagine? The turnover. Only the strong ones, the fighters, are going to survive. The rest are going to scurry like mice. And then when we have the turnover, that's going to go to retraining cost. When you're in this state of fear, and we're going to go through some other causes of fear, but when you have this kind of fear, livelihood, job security fear, you can't focus. Inefficiency, lower productivity. Of course, the morale's going on, and probably, even though you're not talking about it, other people are going through it too. Because it might be systematic, it might be cultural. There's going to be disruptions, and depending on where you are, you might be setting yourself up for a big lawsuit, allowing this to happen. Now remember the universal declared human rights. This violates it. This violates it. And while that's not a law, you could certainly, depending on your location, get sued for it. And the one I like the most is even if you were sitting there with a garden hose and the building caught on fire, that's not my responsibility. Let her burn, baby, burn. Burn, baby, burn. And we have organizational learning. From human resources and being strategic with your employees, you need to attract and retain employees and treat them well and keep them coming back. And they learn things, and you have this organizational learning going on where departments learn over time. It might not be written down, and that's the problem, because when everybody quits, your organizational learning disappears. Now, in one of the articles, I'm trying not to mention any names here, about the retailer, the person, it was a bad situation. Read your articles on the Moodle. But at the end of the bad article, the person says that, management is bullying the employees. In fact, they're overworking them to the point where they're just working them, and actually they're doing the wrong things. So that's bad. But then you got to go, Okay, does management enjoy treating people like this and get a kick out of it? And the author makes the point, maybe it's the upper management that's pressuring the middle management, and there's probably such a distance right there. There could be a distance that they get a kick out of it. But this manager, top manager, pressures middle managers, and they're going through the same thing. So it might be that's acceptable. I'm getting it. They're going to get it. They're helpless too. I'm going to make them helpless. And so management might be abused as well. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I used to say everything was top management's fault, management's fault, when actually I'm opening up to the management might not be to blame, it's the top management. But somebody's in control here, and top management, they allow this to happen, unless they just don't know about it. But if they are putting pressure, pounding them, and then they're going to pound them, and now the customers go away. So, man, we got to watch out for this. As HR people, as managers, can we tolerate this? It's a violation of human rights. I have actually the Bill of Rights for parrots that I was going to toss into this, but I didn't want you to have another. You've been through tomatoes and parakeets, and I think you've had enough of that. But actually, pets get treated better than this. And the final thing is whose team is management on? I mean, talk about creating your own problems. This is nuts. Even though middle management might be getting the pressure from the top, I would think that they would know that they are causing their own demise by putting the pressure on them, and middle management, if possible, should be able to just kind of let that roll off of them and protect the employees under them to keep the spirits up. Whose team is management on? That's a good question with all of this going on. So be looking out for emotional abuse in the workplace.